let's start with satanic ritual abuse because I think it illustrates how real this all is and how widespread it is, and that it's in our backyards and it's being covered up. Can you speak a little on that?
Well, yeah, the satanic ritual abuse, again, it's historic. It goes back in the Old Testament to the days of Moloch. You can see it with the Mayans. You can see it with, a number of, archaeological digs, stuff like that. But the kind of Satanism or ritual abuse we see today comes from old Europe. And we see, their search for powers and their search to advance the cause. So we have probably 4.5 million cases of multiple personality disorder, and they say about 80% of that is ritual abuse, satanic ritual abuse. So that tells you that it's a very big thing.
Right. And as far as it being covered up by law enforcement, do you have any specific indications of that?
Well, I think that, when I was a police chaplain for a couple of years and worked there, and I got to teach in the academy, they, in all the academies, the academy stuff that I went to, advanced training on occult crime, things like that, one thing that's very clear, Chris, they tell officers not to talk about satanic crime, not to bring it out in the public, not to scare the public, just deal with the crime, and basically just, I don't want to say cover up, but the idea is, not put it out there. Now, we've run into some issues with some officers, too, because, again, while I was there's some great officers, but there's officers that have trouble, too, and we had one particular person that was involved in satanic ritual abuse and in rituals in coven work.
And you say that it was kind of known that they would try to keep everybody, hush hush a little bit, but not necessarily anything bad. But that was in effect kind of coming from the top, sort of at least that precinct.
Right. Sure. Well, even at the police academy down here in Ohio, when I was allowed to go in and take some coursework that they were doing, the trainers, that's what the trainers would say to the rest of the officers and the cadets and everything else. Even though they showed dozens of slides of, horrible, ritual abuse and rituals and people killed and, pentagrams carved into a chest or a head cut off and all these kind of gruesome pictures we saw, and all the factors they showed. And during the 90s, Chris, every single, it seemed like anyway, every single department in the United States was developing a cult crime unit or a, satanic ritual crime type unit that would learn the symbolism, would understand the motivations of the crimes, and be able to investigate. And so books by law enforcement agents were beginning to be written and used throughout the 90s. And so we definitely had a flurry of direct criminal activity. It hasn't gone away. It's just, again, they think that it's going to incite panic to the community. So they're told strictly, from higher-ups and trainers, not to discuss it, publicize it, talk to the news people, about it, that kind of stuff.
Well, if one does a search, and starts trying to look up satanic ritual abuse, one is almost instantly confronted with the idea that it simply doesn't exist, that it's a mass hallucination effect, and the kids were, these memories are being planted. A lot of that was propagated by a foundation called the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. Can you see if you agree on that, and then maybe talk a little bit about that organization?
Sure, I agree with you on that. That there's been those who have said that, because I've had to deal with that all along. Even when I taught in the academy, officers would ask, because for them they want the body, they want the bones. Even we would take victims to law enforcement. I remember this one chief here locally would always say, "Russ, bring us the body, bring us the bones." Well, we brought bones back from Pennsylvania once, and we've seen the crime, slides, hundreds of them. So it's not that the crime's not being committed. It's, again, on a deeper level of satanic ritual abuse when children or others. Now, for me, I've spent over 20 years working with victims. We developed a team to go after the perpetrators and to find out everything we could about them. So we see the links. We see the folks. So there's no question on our part. No question on the part of hundreds of thousands of victims that have been through psych wards in counseling centers and so forth. I think it'd be more hilarious to believe that all these different people had the exact same hallucination.
Right.
So,
and what is that number like? I mean, what kind of diagnosed? What do we have to hold on to as far as how many people have gone to psychiatrists and been diagnosed?
Sure.
That kind of thing.
Right. Back in I think like 92, we did a seminar. We were doing seminars at the time then, and I quoted from Holly Hector, who was a hypnotherapist from Centennial Hospital in Denver. They, along with Hartford Hospital in Chicago and others, developed a ritual abuse ward. There were so many cases of multiple personality disorder that was connected to satanic ritual abuse that a number of hospitals and their psych wards and so forth would set up a ward that would deal just with ritual abuse. Now, her ward back in the early 90s, that's all they took into that section of the hospital. She, in a book called Satan Associates by Wendell Amstead, quoted from the American Psychological Association, I think. I'm not sure where she quoted, but in that book anyway, it's listed at 2.5 million diagnosed cases in 1992-93. That's gone way up now to where we in 94 and 96 in doing seminars, we estimated close to 5 million diagnosed cases, majority of which are satanic ritual abuse. But then, here's the problem, Chris. We have on the other side, half the people we deal with never been to a psych ward, a counselor. They're undiagnosed. So we began to estimate statistically 10 million. And then just 2 years ago, Colin Ross, a Canadian psychiatrist from a big center up there, he's a world-renowned psychiatrist, so forth, in his book, he's now estimated up to 10 million, half of which diagnosed, half of which are undiagnosed out there. That's a lot of individuals. Every psych ward in our city has people that have been diagnosed with DID, dissociative identity disorder, and probably the majority, 80, they say around 87%, 90%. We found by 95% of them will eventually begin to talk about the satanic ritual abuse memories. That's a lot of folks.
Right. That's a lot of folks to say they have memories of, being, in a circle of people surrounding them doing absolutely horrible things. I think that and to think that this very specific memories that they have, again, the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, what about those guys?
Well, it's interesting because in dealing with some of the victims here locally, like one lady we were dealing with and helping her and talking to other personalities within her and doing deliverance with demonic presence within her, all the stuff began to come out. Well, her father began to contact by typing out on an old hand-like typewriter. It would send me cards and just kind of I don't know, provoke, trying to let me know that he's trying to, spy on us, stalk us, or whatever. The father was a Nazi freak. Completely, his whole house was packed with Nazi stuff, things like that. But he wrote me one day about, the False Memory Foundation that he was, a part of or whatever, and he's prepared to use them if we went public with the abuse allegations. Here's the issue. Dr. Orn and Dr. Jolly West were two of the founders of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. They were both CIA, highly versed in MKUltra and mind control techniques. You'll find some of the other people that were connected. Also, it's just amazing to me that this kind of a foundation is set up to battle anybody who's coming forward and saying they have particular, satanic ritual abuse memories. They're very expert at knowing how to trigger. They worked with it. These are the guys you have from the CIA. Our CIA has, back when there was the OSS and Project Paperclip, what people can read about now more than ever, they were duped. The programs were brought in, and many of the satanic ritual abuse situations and multiple personality disorder situations have come out of the MKUltra and the Monarch Project stuff.
Right. Now, not every witchcraft coven is sacrificing babies, but there seems to be the whole lot of different flavors and belief systems to these covens at the let's say anarchy level, to quote Fritz Springmeier. But what do you say to the people that tell you, well, they're in a coven and they happen to know for a fact that this